We are Team Carhart, Copeland, Doolittle, and Stevens, and this is our presentation about clinical social workers.
The Professional History and Development of Social Work, presented by Zach Carhart. In the late 1800s, the settlement house movement emerged as a method for providing aid for those in need. It began in Britain in 1884. The first settlement house, which was Tonabee Hall, was established to provide social services and education to the poor workers who lived there. The mission of Tonabee Hall was to promote practical and innovative programs for underprivileged residents of all ages and backgrounds. This aimed to meet the needs of all local residents while improving the conditions where they lived. This was to maximize their social potential and create innovative programs to promote social justice in impoverished neighborhoods. The settlement house movement moved on to the United States in the late 1800s. Stanton Coit founded the Neighborhood Guild, which was the first U.S. settlement house. This was built in New York City. Its purpose, like that of Tonabee Hall, was to meet the immediate needs of the neighborhood through a daily program of direct services to bring about more basic social reforms. The work of these two houses would lead the way to the beginnings of social work as we know it today. Jane Addams was one of the leading pioneers of the U.S. settlement house movement. She established the Hall House in Chicago in the late 1800s. It was through this house that men and women were able to learn more about social work and put their knowledge into practice. Founded in 1918, the American Association of Hospital Social Workers was created in response to challenging statements by Dr. Abraham Flexner. He said that social work was not a professional occupation due to the lack of applicable knowledge of solving human issues of injustice and poverty.
Hello, my name is Kara Copeland, and I'm going to go over some of the educational requirements for becoming a social worker. One of the first educational requirements in becoming a social worker is obtaining an undergraduate or graduate degree in social work or a related field. The program must also be approved by the Council on Social Work Education, which is the CSWE. In addition, all states have their own licensure and certification requirements that must be followed. This chart lays out some of the paths in earning a graduate degree in social work. As you can see, a master's degree is more common than a doctoral degree in the field of social work. Some of the types of degrees awarded are a Master's of Social Work, Master's in Advanced Clinical Practice, a Master's in Social Work Administration, or a doctoral degree in a Doctor of Social Work, or a PhD in Doctor of Philosophy in Social Work. Some of the common areas social workers go into after they complete their degree are administrative social work, healthcare social work, and mental health and substance abuse counseling. There are also some common coursework classes that are listed which are similar to our Masters in Counseling courses. The field education requirements are as follows: a minimum of 400 hours for a baccalaureate program and a minimum of 900 hours for a master's program. When researching educational requirements for social work, I found different types of qualifications that can be added to a master's with different levels of experience. First is the Academy of Certified Social Workers, ACSW. They are considered experience credentials, and to obtain these credentials, you must have 2 years of master's social work supervised experience, also a paid full or part-time work experience of 3,000 hours or 2 years of full-time employment. The second type of qualification is the Qualified Clinical Social Worker, the QCSW. This is considered more clinical experience than the ACSW, and 3 years or 4,500 hours of paid and supervised hours are required. The highest level of certification in social work is called the Diplomate in Clinical Social Work, which is the DCSW. This requires 4,500 hours and 3 years of additional clinical experience, which has to occur in the past 10 years.
Hi, my name is Sharon Stevens, and I would like to talk to you about social workers and their professional organizations, memberships, and ethical standards. Social work has always been around. However, in the late 1800s, more structure was made for social work through social organizations. One of those organizations is the Charity of Organizations Society. The Charity of Organizations Society was founded in England. They were a group of private charities, usually religious affiliated, who went out to help the poor by going to their homes and educating their children and teaching economic advisement and providing assistance. They were often resented for their judgmental attitudes and often preaching. They are known today as Family Action. The settlement movement was a social reform group that had staff living in the community with the people. The Hull House is an example of one such organization. It was founded in 1889 in Chicago and is still in operation today. In 1955, the National Association of Social Workers was formed, and it was comprised of the following 7 associations, all working together as one. The National Association of Social Workers has over 132,000 members and 55 chapters in the U.S. and abroad. It promotes its members through its code of ethics, standards, and education. The National Association of Social Workers has over 132,000 members and 55 chapters in the U.S. and abroad. It promotes its members. In 1965, the National Association of Social Workers established the Academy of Certified Social Workers. This is a higher level of social work. The requirements for this academy is a current National Association Social Work membership, a master's degree in social work, documented 2 years of postgraduate social work, verified 20 hours of relevant continuing education, and adherence to the National Association of Social Work Code of Ethics and their standards for continuing professional education. The National Association of Social Work membership includes state chapter membership. The membership types are regular, student, transitional, associate, and retired. The many benefits of being in the National Association of Social Work are that You can get discounted liability insurance. You're able to be identified by the public and employers as having met enduring, uniform, and high national standards of practice. You're eligible for third-party reimbursement. You meet the criteria to join the National Association of Social Work Register of Clinical Social Workers. Social services through social work is not just for the poor and destitute, but it is for everyone that needs social assistance of any kind at any time.
I'm Carolyn Doolittle, and the licensed clinical social worker I interviewed is Deborah Bumbaugh, who lives and works in the Washington, D.C. area. Deborah's educational background is a full-time 2-year Master's of Social Work from the University of Maryland. As part of that program, Deborah had internships at the Department of Aging and the Veterans Affairs Hospital. In both of these internships, Deborah's work involved conducting psychosocial assessments of clients as well as counseling. Deborah received training in acceptance and commitment therapy, which she employed while working with World War II veterans. Deborah is currently a therapist in Curt Thompson's Northern Virginia practice. Curt is a Christian psychiatrist who has written 2 books, The Anatomy of the Soul and The Soul of Shame. His books and his website, beingknown.com, have been and continue to be influential in the Christian therapy world. In addition to her work through Curt Thompson's practice, Deborah also works through a virtual interface to bring therapy to inpatient clients who can't get to her office. When I asked Deborah about the differences between the types of therapists, she described 3 different types this way. She said the training for an LCSW is holistic. With it, she can diagnose and treat disorders as well as offer counseling. An LPC emphasizes primarily counseling, and a licensed MFT involves studying family systems and working within them to provide care for clients. As a therapist who is a Christian, it is very important to Deborah that she integrates her faith into her practice appropriately and as often as she is able. In her initial interview with clients before any counseling sessions, Deborah asked them if they are interested in faith-based services. Dr. Thompson's practice is well respected within the Christian community, so many of her referrals happen to be Christians. For clients that are not Christians, Deborah prays independently for them outside of sessions. During sessions, she gently brings up the idea of the importance of seeking healthy community and helps her clients brainstorm different avenues to find strong community. Clients often bring up the idea of going to church at this point. Deborah feels that the greatest success she can have with clients is when they perceive her care and concern for them. She loves Carl Rogers' concept of unconditional positive regard. She finds that breakthroughs happen when clients feel safe and unconditionally accepted. When I asked Deborah about her methods of self-care, she emphasized that self-care is critical for every therapist if they hope to provide effective care for clients. Deborah highlighted self-care practices that worked best for her. The first is regularly receiving counseling, in which she works through possible countertransference from her clients with her own therapist. Outside of sessions, she actively pursues emotional progress in her own life. Deborah selects her continuing education credits carefully to make sure they have a positive impact on her spirit as well as her counseling. Her most recent CEU was at a Dan Allender seminar, which she described as earth-shattering. Finally, Deborah sets a healthy boundary by not taking on too many clients, and she makes time each day to draw near to the Lord with prayer and scripture.